Welcome back to Business and Life Stories with Mike and James. This episode, we have Brittany Sarconi joining us from Fireside Fractional CMO, and that's a mouthful, so you can just think of her as future queen of the world. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you guys so much for having me today.
Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks.
So what is a fractional CMO?
Great question. A fractional CMO is somebody who works in a fractional capacity to be a chief marketing officer. So it's a trend these days to have fractional people working in your company because you don't need a full-time person to do that. So I work with a bunch of companies to set their marketing strategies to make sure that they're effective for growth instead of just spending all of my time with one organization.
And how does that benefit the clients? Are you able to share things you learned across client base, or do you have to keep them siloed?
Great question. So you can definitely take things that you learn across each client. That's a huge benefit. My background is actually working in agencies. So I've worked in digital marketing agencies for most of my career. And that is one of the greatest benefits to working in that type of environment, working on more than one client at a time. I know so much more about marketing than if I had been in-house at one organization for most of my career. I've worked on hundreds of clients and have that expertise that I've taken from every company, every industry, every vertical, and can apply that in a more holistic way than somebody who would come up in a different type of marketing background.
And then for most of our audience are startups or early stagers. And there's always a struggle understanding the importance of sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain to someone? Because part of the problem, of course, is the proliferation of quote unquote experts. You know, if you buy my Facebook ad program, who convert? If you buy my blah, blah, blah program, who convert? It's like, there's so much of this garbage out there. How do they know that this will work?
There is a lot of garbage out there that makes it honestly really hard to be in this industry. And I own a digital marketing agency, and it's hard for us to cut through the clutter of what is good versus what is not. So that's when it's really important to get to know somebody on a personal level, identify how they work, identify if you have cohesiveness in your working styles and your ethos. I don't take clients unless we are very much on the same page of our working style, our goals, to make sure that we are going to have a successful relationship. And then at that point, that person who is considering hiring me can speak to any of my former clients. I have references that can share their experience, and I'm more than happy to do that. I'm super transparent in the way that I work, and even with my digital marketing agency, one of our core values is transparency. So it just makes for an easier, more fun relationship and work environment when all the cards are on the table. And Mike, you've gotten to know me for a couple months now, and you know that I'm very honest.
That's what really stood out to me and James about you and about Fireside was the transparency and honesty. It's very unusual, and it's very refreshing and encouraging. So how do you get your clients then, you know, a smaller company, early stage company, to embrace being open, to embrace the idea of digital marketing? How do you get them over that hurdle of, like we have it in our business, right? And our business is training people to not fail. And it always starts with overcoming some innate fear that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I do what's called a marketing strategy call with any potential client of Fireside. And on that call, we look at the potential client's business, website, marketing ventures, if they've done any marketing yet. If they haven't, then I aim to point them in the right direction of what would be beneficial for them at this stage in their business, even if it's not a service with Fireside. And often with brand new companies, there's a lot of things that you need to do before you can participate in one of our services. So I use that marketing strategy call to really point them in the right direction, no matter what that direction is. And I often call it a therapy session because there is that fear. Yeah, it's terrifying to own a business, advertise a business. I didn't do ads for Fireside for the first probably year and a half that we were in existence. One, because we didn't need to, because I was networking like a crazy person, but two, because it takes a lot of emotional investment to spend thousands of dollars a month on ads. And I know that. So I've been through that, and I'm able to speak to business owners about that fear, to really put myself in their shoes, because I have been in their shoes. And I think that people resonate with that message, and they resonate with me being open and honest with them. And at the end of the day, if they work with us, great. And if not, great. Like, I just want what's best for them and their business.
And I think that really comes across in the investing business. We call it being a fiduciary, which means we handle people's money in their best interest.
Mm-hmm.
The same kind of idea. James looks like he's just busting to ask a question here.
I'm a simple guy, and I guess I'm thinking maybe there's a few other simple people out in our audience, hopefully not quite as simple as I am. But a question which came to my mind, because that's just the way my mind kind of works, is what's the difference between a fractional CMO and like a marketing consultant?
Great question. So a marketing consultant is going to come in and tell you, here's what you should do. Have a good day. A fractional CMO is going to say, here's what you should do. Now I'm going to help you implement that. And that can look like setting the strategy, managing the teams or people who are going to execute that work, like basically making sure that the shit gets done.
So, because my low level of understanding about marketing consultants, they would implement as well, I guess, or they would offer that within their agency services, right? Whereas would an early stage company need to have a marketing like a fractional CMO? They would be more the strategists. So would a company need to have their own marketing division to really fully utilize someone with your services? And if they didn't, is that the dividing line to then maybe go the other way and consider a marketing consultant if they weren't to have their own division or their own marketing team?
Yeah, great question. So a company doesn't need to have a marketing team to utilize a fractional CMO, because part of what I do is figure out what resources we need and then go contract or potentially hire those resources and have them execute to the strategy that was set in the strategy phase.
Yeah. So it is a relatively new concept, right? I mean, I think I first started hearing the phrase maybe 5 years ago, but I do live in New Zealand and passenger pigeons do take a little bit long to arrive here. So for all I know, it could have been happening in the rest of the world like 10 years ago. But yeah, with all said and done, is it that CMOs, to put it bluntly, wasted half their time back in the day, or kind of shifted on to other jobs? Or is it the nature of the new style of a business model, maybe more of an online model, or maybe is it purely just a time and cost efficiency thing, or has actually a business model changed slightly, which gave the opportunity for a fractional role to come into existence?
Yeah, that is such a great question. I think it's a combination of things. So one, people today work and produce more than they ever have. Like, we are far more efficient, far quicker at completing tasks. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But what took somebody a full-time job to be a CMO or a marketing director, 10 years ago, is nothing what it looks like today. So I think that that's one thing. And secondly, I think that companies probably didn't have the opportunity to take advantage of a high-level marketing person at this rate before this kind of way of working was established. And fractional CMO is a little bit newer probably, but things like fractional CFOs, your accounting team, fractional COOs even have been in the mix for a while. So while CMO might be kind of a new thing, it's really just working in the same type of capacity as any of those other fractional teams.
Yeah, the fractional CFO was the person you always brought in to do the books right before the IRS showed up at your door.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of pressure.
No, I'm just laughing because that's how that whole thing got started. Was, oh crap, we need somebody to fix this.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, it's a different kind of pressure, right? It's generating the revenue for the business. Like, that's the end game. That's the bottom line.
I think
really. Oh, see, we got time lag from New Zealand. Go ahead, James.
Sorry to interrupt. What would have probably been a far more complex and an interesting question, Mike. But I'm still down the wormhole here, the tube into oblivion, perhaps. Of, I guess, having spoken to hundreds of business owners, usually within the sales capacity, what often comes up in a conversation is them trying to extradite, or the business owner trying to extradite themselves from working in the business to working on the business, right? And I can't tell you the number of people who, when discussing their marketing and the technology available, because you've just mentioned that everything happens kind of in warp speed compared with what it was 10 years ago, the number of business owners which have told me, yeah, well, I've tried to organize a few Facebook ads and I kind of boosted a post and blah, 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 blah. And then I just shake my head going, is that really the best use of your time? So is it a difficult conversation to create the vision of, hey, I recognize, James, that you've been doing like a pretty reasonable job, but to be honest with you, it really does sound that if you want to reach that level of revenue, then you've got to kind of step out of working in the business and work on the business. What if someone came in at the strategic level of marketing and actually could work at it at that level, so then we could really implement something which really does work, as opposed to sort of fiddling about with a few boosted posts or whatever the situation is. Is that a difficult conversation, or is that vision and a route to the vision a much more common conversation, which obviously opens the road to you being able to possibly work for them, right?
It's a very simple conversation. Business owners aren't ignorant people usually. They know that when they are working in the business, it's a means to an end, which I fully support. You have to pay the bills. You have to pay your own bills. You need to justify bringing somebody in at a high level that is going to be a cost to the business. And I fully support that. I understand that. I've done it myself. So, but But yeah, they're not ignorant people. They know that they're going to see a return on investment when they're not the ones doing the Facebook ads because they're not experts. So it's a pretty easy conversation. The question that I do get a lot is, what return can I see? And that's a really hard question to answer, because the answer is you don't know and you never know, and it changes on a, probably quarterly basis with when Facebook changes their algorithm or their targeting or their reporting or their attribution. So it's an ever-changing landscape, and what I coach people through is better than the results you're getting. And that's usually a sufficient answer.
Yeah, that is the whole point of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you seen advertising as an industry change in your time?
Such a great question. So I have worked strictly in digital my entire career. I'm a millennial. I've never touched print advertising. So there's that. So in my time, and a lot of my time has been spent in Facebook. I was one of the early adopters of Facebook advertising. So I've seen a lot change. It used to be the Wild West, the good old days when you could target anything and everything. You could target your competitors' like Facebook pages. It was so much fun. It was tricky and it was strategic and it was so much fun. Things have gotten very, very buttoned up since then, and it is harder to target basically anything now. We've moved to a model that is almost all data centric. So when customers work with us, they need to have their own data. So I really emphasize to all of my clients that we need to be doing a lot of list building activity, because owning your data is the best thing that you can do in your business. Letting Facebook dictate who you can target is not a sound strategy, and it's not one that's going to be around for much longer. So I think that over the years, that's probably the biggest difference that I've noticed, that I've come across, that is the biggest changer of the game, is the lack of targeting.
But that brings up an interesting point, because if a business is trying to attract a certain type of client or customer, but they can't specifically target for that, what do you do?
We rely on their list data. So you have to be building your house list, your email list all the time, and you really just have to be smart about it. So, for example, something that changed recently in Facebook is that you can't target religion anymore. So where I work with a few private schools and coaches who work with Christians, things of that nature, you can't target Christian religion anymore. So then what you do is use your strategic marketing brain and figure out, what do those types of people like? What are their interests? What do they do in their free time? Okay, so gospel music, Joel Osteen, like those kinds of things are the way to get around targeting options that have been removed.
James has another question.
That is fascinating, because when I started learning about marketing, I don't know, 8 or so years ago, a lot of the coaches were talking about the value of building lists. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was about how to build an avatar, thinking about the magazines they read, the places they went, etc., etc., right? And then my understanding was it kind of like fell out of favor a bit. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but I just had the feeling that maybe things had gone on or moved on from that place. But now what's really fascinating is that it kind of, whether or not that's the case, but what you actually, to me, am I right in thinking that you're reinforcing for companies to be able to build their lists and also spend time, whether it's hiring an expert or they themselves, just really spending time and working on what I would know as a marketing avatar and everything around that, right? Because I used to do this exercise, like who are they married to, what their kids look like, the car they drive, the house, the school, and you go on and on and on and on, right? And then I guess if you're saying that targeting within the algorithms and the Facebook are taking out certain things, it would be, okay, so maybe what you're saying is, well, where might that person hang out, or what might they read, or what might they listen to? Which I guess the question is, or the comment or the question is, how important is it to get back to what I consider the simplicity or the foundational of knowing your marketing avatar really, really well?
A couple things. I think that when there was, I do think I agree with you that there is probably less of a focus of building really robust avatars today than there was previously. And I think that's for maybe a couple reasons. One, when you didn't need to get that granular and targeting was a little bit easier, then that was kind of maybe an overkill. I also think that we move really fast now, and we are just trying to get on to the next thing and get on with our marketing plan, and we don't take the time to do that. But yes, I would like to see an evolution of coming back to that, where we're really identifying who these people are. One, so that we can speak to them in language in a way that is going to really resonate, because copy and creative is of vital importance when you don't have the targeting options, when you have to when you have to target more broadly. And then, yeah, just understanding who these people are at their, fullest selves, so that we can try to target anything that we possibly can.
Fantastic.
But what are some marketing mistakes that people make?
Some big ones are not doing the research, not doing the upfront work. I have clients that try to sign up for Fireside that I know haven't done the work, who can't really tell me who their target audience is, in a way that makes it really clear for us to be successful, honestly. So one is not going through a really strong kind of branding exercise. And that's not just identifying your target audience, but what's your tone of voice? What is your visual identity? We can't make these things up for you. Otherwise, everybody's going to have Fireside brand voice and Fireside brand fonts. Hope you like the color red. So yeah. So that's one thing that people don't get right sometimes. And that's probably just like the most detrimental one. The other thing is not having realistic expectations or a realistic budget. I had a client the other day that I unfortunately had to discontinue work with, because her expectation, she somehow made it through the strategy call, and her expectation for results was just so far removed from what was realistic. And those are the results she needed in her business, but I knew that we could not provide that. So we just parted ways before we even really got started, which is fine.
Yeah, it's always better to disengage early when it's not going to work.
Yep. In all relationships.
So TV shows, as we all know, they're scripted and they're usually way over dramatized.
Mm-hmm.
But things like Mad Men and some of these other shows where they show you the whole marketing thing, like, how true to life is any of that, or is it none of it?
As to not incriminate myself,
oh, please incriminate yourself.
I would have loved to have been alive during Mad Men times. Like, that would just be a dream come true. Working in large agencies is
Okay.
That's as far as reachable to get, Mike.
Yeah, that's the best admission we're going to get. Yeah, I'm always curious, because it's just, you always wonder,
Yeah, well, it's a fun time. So let me tell you about my journey into agency. I was a sophomore in college. I had an internship. I was the youngest intern at this agency. It was a big agency. It was very prestigious. People were like very impressed that I got this internship as a sophomore, and I was like, sure, whatever, it sounds good. I had no idea. I walk into the agency the first day, and there's like ping pong tables, a keg. Somebody asked me to join the kickball team, and then they found out that I was only 20 years old, and they're like, oh, you can't drink though. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, what do you have coming up on the horizon? Are you getting books coming out, seminars, masterclass?
Great question. I've got some things that are in early stages of development, but here's what I'm really working on. Fractional CMO is, yes, what I do, but what I'm really solving right now and shifting into working in this capacity is being not a fractional CMO, but like an interim marketing professional for people who are going on maternity leave. So when people go on maternity leave, there's not really a good plan for how their duties are going to get covered. The plan is usually, well, this person's going to take this task, and this person's going to take this task, and this task we're just going to leave undone. And for 3 to 4 months, people on the team are overloaded with additional duties. Things fall between the cracks. Things aren't done to the highest level of what they could be done, because there's a whole entire human being is missing from their team. And then when the person comes back from maternity leave and they have a baby now, and their sleep schedule is crazy, and their brains are working at half capacity, they come back to a complete train wreck. And it's a problem that we as a society have never put energy into solving, which is mind-blowing. But so I'm on a mission to change the world, to answer your question, and come up with a solution for this. So I'm filling in for women who are going on maternity leave, who are in market roles like director of marketing, VP of marketing, maybe CMO, but that are in these higher level marketing roles and need somebody to do their job while they're on maternity leave and have like a smooth transition plan back into the workplace. So that's what I'm working on right now.
And that's a really great vision. We have seen different companies handle that in different ways, and I've been very encouraged that I would say 99% of the exposure I've had has been very positive. It's like everybody knows moms are important. We all had a mom. That's why we're here. Mm-hmm. And it's always been about how do you help? How do you make sure this person's job is covered and getting done? That's important. How do you make sure they have the time to go spend with the newborn, which is also important. Mm-hmm. I'm really happy that this is something that I've seen done well in a lot of places. Of course, not being in the marketing world, I didn't know about this aspect of it. So we're very excited you're doing that. So how do people get a hold of you? More specifically, you probably already know how to market to the people you want to reach, but the people who want to reach you, what should they do?
Absolutely. I mean, I have a very great network, and I do know how to reach people, but I want people to be able to reach out to me. I know that this is a problem that is going unsolved right now in a lot of places. So yeah, you can email me at Brittany@meetfireside.com, which is BRITTANY @MEET fireside.com, not MEAT, because that would be weird. And I'm also
barbecue.
I'm also on all of the socials, LinkedIn. I'm the only Brittany Sarconi in the world. So if you Google search Brittany Sarconi, SARCONI, you're going to find my LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Connect with me anywhere, and I'm happy to have a conversation. You might get some cool marketing content if you follow me on social media. If that's not your thing, then don't follow.
This has been a great interview. You have any final thoughts for the audience?
I think that I just really appreciate being here with you guys today. And I am so glad to have great, amazing people in my life. Final thoughts are like, go out and meet everyone in the world that you possibly can, because you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what connections they might have. You never know what their experience is. And I think we just get into like this day-to-day grind, which is easy to do. And when you keep in your circles and you're not thinking about expanding your worldviews, then you don't get to meet amazing people. And I wouldn't have met you amazing gentlemen if I hadn't expanded on my circles. And I'm so, so grateful to have done that. So
we are too.
Thank you so much. We're really
Thanks for being here.
very grateful.
Yeah.